Hello, 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 and welcome back to Coach's Corner. It is a Wednesday, July 31st, and I am back as I promised. We got a great show for you today. We got some MLB trade deadline talk. We're going to talk about a couple teams that are buyers that I really like, some of the moves they made. We're going to talk about a team that decided to pay one of their guys, and we have to start off with, I think, the most notable team in baseball, at least the NL. The Los Angeles Dodgers did a thing where yesterday, obviously, the MLB trade deadline did happen. Some moves happened here and there where I feel like some teams were more active than others, and then you had your buyers, sellers. The Marlins ripped it down to the studs. Like I feel like they do every 2 years, but they ripped it down to the studs. And one of the teams that did sell off a piece was the Detroit Tigers and Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty is a former All-Star with the Cardinals, but he hasn't really been good, since that All-Star season until this season. This past season, he does have a 2.8 WAR and has been pitching really, really well for that Tiger squad. And they haven't seen the results they wanted to see, so they decided to make a move with one of their guys, got rid of Jack, and sent him to LA. But what scares me is not what Jack Flaherty is going to do on the field, because he hasn't pitched meaningful baseball in a couple of years now. He hasn't pitched, his WAR hasn't been positive since 2020. That is a little while ago. And so now he is, moving from the AL Central that has teams like the Tiger. Well, he was on the Tigers, but they have teams like the Guardians, the Twins, there's another awful team, the White Sox, and like he's going from those type of teams to the NL West, which has teams like the Padres, who I'm going to talk about in a moment, the Diamondbacks, the Giants, even the Rockies. I say even the Rockies, like they're even close to being competitive. Either way, expectations are a little bit different. He's going to be thrown back into that furnace of pressure of pitching good quality baseball for a team that is contending for a World Series, and frankly, a team that needs him, because the starters in Los Angeles have been either hurt or they just haven't been that good. They're not reliable. This, that, and the other. It's always kind of been the Dodgers' weakness, I'd say. But like I said, it doesn't scare me on the field. This move scares me more about what happens off the field now, because if you know me, I'm a Braves fan. I'm an Atlanta guy. And we have a pitcher here in Atlanta named Max Fried, who is a free agent at the end of the year. And Max Fried is from Los Angeles. Max Fried is friends with Jack Flaherty and Lucas Giolito, who, like I said, one of those guys is in Los Angeles. And basically, it feels like an extension is not going to happen at any point until, maybe they'll come back to the end of the season, the open market. That's maybe where he'll get his contract from the Braves if they decide to do that. But with them landing, Max's friend here, and like I said, he's from LA, the pieces, all the dominoes are just stacking up, for this move that feels pretty inevitable. And I mean, the Dodgers have the open checkbook. They don't have any limits on what their spending is, obviously. And the Braves very much do. They kind of openly said that yesterday, is we do not want to be into the third tier of tax, which garbage, because the Braves are in the Battery, which generates, it like came out that how much money it generates. It's a lot of money. And so saying that you don't want to be in that tax apron kind of brings you back to that whole, they don't want to spend money, level. And I frankly just really annoys me, because you know how much money they make off of the Battery here in Atlanta? An absurd amount. And the fact that they don't want to they're talking about taxes and like dipping into that type of area, it just grinds my gears, because teams like the Dodgers, spend like crazy, and the Phillies spend like crazy, and yet you're right trying to compete with them, but you're trying to do it, I guess, the right way maybe, and not spend with them. I mean, like I said, spending doesn't always equal winning. Look at the Yankees, look at the Mets. But when it comes to keeping your own guys, I feel like that's a fairly good way to spend your money. And that's a fairly good place to go, especially a guy who's made two All-Star teams. And like I said, the injuries have been there, which factor into the contract. But, when you're basically going to lose him to your biggest threat in your, league, I feel like you just have to do something to either, make a move and go get a starter that's as good or just pay the guy. And obviously they didn't make that move yesterday, so now they're going to have to really just hope that he doesn't go to the Dodgers, which, like I said, feels like a pretty foregone conclusion in the same sense that, Freddie Freeman, when he wasn't signed and you had that, the rumblings that he wants to go back to LA, he's a California guy and everything, you didn't want to believe it. But then it happens and it's just like it makes too much sense. And this feels like a similar move, but since we've dealt with the Freddie Freeman, the disbelief that it would happen, and I guess we're not as a fan base attached to Max as we were Freddie, this feels like a lot more logical and a lot more realistic, and this could happen to us. So, with that being said, Dodgers landing Jack is a okay move for their on-field production this year, but like I said, off the field is where I think this could really get dicey because I don't think they would trade for him, if they didn't believe they'd keep him beyond this year. And like I said, he would help them in other ways, which recruiting is a way. So, but with all that being said, we got to look around the league. What about the other buyers? The Dodgers are going to always be buyers, and but teams that aren't normally buyers, the Royals, the Mets, for once, sometimes they've been the sellers, past couple of years when they've, fell off historically. They were buyers this year. I mean, they got an A's starter who will at least eat some innings for them. And the Padres, who have been really, really strong buyers the past couple of years, under this new regimen they're in. But regardless, the San Diego Padres are buyers. And something I really liked was the Royals making that move to be a team that's going after guys who can play right now, because the Royals are in the wild card. They are a fun young team, and they do have a superstar in Bobby Witt Jr. And it's one of those moves where, you saw the Orioles last year make the kind of moves where, like, hey, we might actually have something here. We have some young talent that can develop and do something for us now. And so the Royals kind of taking that O's approach, because I feel like the Orioles are kind of be that model where you're a low spending team, you don't really do much, but then when you hit on those couple of guys like Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman, you're like, you know what, it is a little bit beneficial to pay some guys now, or go pay the price to go get some guys. And the Royals, I feel like, did that. They saw Bobby Witt Jr. was good for them. I mean, I couldn't name you many other Royals because I'm Bobby Witt Jr. is so good, and I've mentioned his name a couple times about how he is going to be one of those new future guys. Either way, the Royals have been winning games that are in the wild card, and for that reason, they decided to go out and make some moves to get some guys. And like I said, I think that is a smart move, especially in the AL Central, which is a division that is not, filled with winners, I think, beyond this year. Because, I mean, they do have the Guardians, who do have the best record in baseball. They've been unbelievable. And the Twins are really good. They're kind of tied in there with the Royals. But like I said, you got Detroit, who's really kind of, they want to be in this Royals lifestyle, but they can't really get there yet. And then the White Sox, who are historically bad. And like I said, the Mets got them, a Pete Blackburn from the A's, who is a dependable starter if they just need him to survive as their fifth guy. But then the Padres, I felt like the Padres made really good moves, getting Tanner Scott from Miami for, one of those bullpen guys that you need. Maybe he ends up being the closer. He probably is going to be the closer. Either way, actually, is Josh Hader still there? I don't know Padres baseball like that. I just saw them. They destroyed the Orioles on Saturday, and I feel like, destroying one of the better teams in the AL and then going out and getting a bullpen arm that is an all-star is good business. The Padres did that. They, Fernando Tatis is still there doing his thing. He's like not, missing significant amount of their time. Manny Machado. Like they have guys, I feel like, Dylan Cease, they have guys at every kind of phase of the game that I think you want, especially Tanner Scott now from Miami. And the Padres feel like one of those dark horse teams where, I mean, I know they made it to the NLCS like last year, but I feel like they only got better. And, maybe they make that jump, or they made it a couple years, 2 years ago, they made it to the NLCS. They're one of those teams that can make those couple of moves, I feel like, and maybe squeeze their way into the World Series. Like I said, wild card teams have been, genuinely, upsetting a lot of these teams and making it to the NLCS and actually making it to the World Series. And so the Padres maybe could be a team that squeaks in there. So I don't know. We'll see. But either way, we got to transition to some football because we do have training camp stuff happening. Yes, training camp is underway for a lot of teams. Pittsburgh Steelers are one of those teams that has an interesting dilemma to figure out, I think, before the season. And Pittsburgh is one of those teams where historically they've been so good as a team, but they haven't figured out those quarterback positions since Ben Roethlisberger retired. They had Mitchell Trubisky, did not work out. They had Kenny Pickett, obviously did not work out. But they are going with basically a whole new quarterback off season. They have Russell Wilson they signed for cheap, and they traded for Justin Fields. And Russell Wilson is hurt early here in the offseason, and then Justin Fields has gotten in. And so, the thought process, they brought in Russ first, was probably Russ is going to be our veteran. We're going to, depend on him, and then we can transition to Justin. But with Russ missing the beginning of training camp, and Justin Fields getting those lion's share reps there for being the lead guy, I feel like we could see this sooner than later because Russell Wilson is up there in age. He's not as fast as he used to be. Justin Fields is very fast. And, Russell Wilson's probably the better passer. But at this point, I don't think either guy is, special. And, Fields is younger and ascending where Russ is older and declining. So I think we could see that, week one starter for Pittsburgh here in Atlanta be Justin Fields, the hometown kid. So we'll see how that unfolds. I think it is an interesting dynamic they have going on in Pittsburgh, but regardless, that will be something to monitor as Russell Wilson keeps missing days with calf injury. I don't know. He might have been back today, but regardless. But speaking of the Bears did a thing. And the price continues to rise for CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase as DJ Moore gets paid by Chicago. And I frankly think it's good business. DJ Moore came in and I think he did exactly what the Bears wanted him to do. That he was wide receiver one. I think he's going to be wide receiver one moving forward. Rome Odunze is still developing. Keenan Allen's going to be in the slot doing his thing. And so you have DJ Moore outside being a true number one receiver for you, and you locked him up in a business move I think is very smart because you also got to remember they have a rookie quarterback now. And the move that they made when they traded Justin and, got Caleb Williams was not only just improving the quarterback position potentially with a younger guy who has that potential, but it was the contract situation because Justin Fields still probably will have to be extended at the end of this year, or I don't know what year he's in or whatever. But Caleb Williams' rookie contract kicks in this year. He has 5 years basically, or 4 years to play on that rookie deal, which is substantially less than what it would have been for Justin Fields had he been signed because they would have probably had to overpay him for what they haven't seen from him. Kind of like Daniel Jones. All roads lead back to Daniel Jones. But what I'm saying is here they don't have to pay Caleb Williams as much, so they can divvy out money as they have been with free agents like to DeAndre Swift, to guys like Keenan Allen, to guys like DJ Moore now, who is in-house guy now. Showed he had career high years with all his stats last year. He comes back, does the same thing, could do the same thing, if not be better with Caleb Williams. And now you have him locked up, and Caleb is cheap, and 4 years down the road, maybe he's a little bit older and you want to move off of him, or he's older and you can get him for less money while you have to go and then pay Caleb Williams if he is hopefully what we think he is or what the world what he's projected to be. It's a very smart business plan here for the Bears, and I feel like it's good business. It's kind of validating the decision to move off of Justin Fields and go full on into the rookie quarterback contract type of space where teams find that guy early on and then they can just spend. Kind of if you look at Houston, they were rebuilding big time. CJ Stroud ends up being the guy, and now he's way underpaid for what he has brought them. And then they can go out and pay guys like Stephon Diggs to come be wide receiver one or just a reliable target. It's a model. It works very well for teams, and we will see how it helps Chicago in the coming years. So, good business. Teams are doing good businesses and business moves, and it's weird that it's the Bears, but hey, sometimes you need some blind luck, and them lucking into that Panthers pick pretty good business. Getting DJ Moore and that first overall pick basically was just they didn't plan on that, but God, did it work out for them. So we'll see how the Bears do this year and see if this does end up being a good deal. So that'll do it for me this time. Maybe we'll dive into some more NFL talk tomorrow about maybe some interesting teams and situations we could touch on. But until then, I am your host, Coach Var, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Yeah, I will see you guys then. Goodbye.